Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh, I am here. I know I said I'd push an hour, but I actually got it to work. So I don't know if you guys are here or not. I'm just going to give people a couple seconds to get back over here. I don't know what happened with my computer. It just would not do the thing. It would not do the thing. It's so annoying. Let me just send out a quick tweet, see if people will come back. I'm so sorry, you guys. Like, that was definitely on me for sure, for sure. Let's see. On today's show, we are going to talk about the Fulham game because, listen, we're in the must-win territory already. I mean, every game is a must-win, so I'm not saying like that's like weird, but we're definitely in like I don't know how to describe it. Like, if we don't win this game, it's going to feel a little bit like a crisis. Because when you really look at our form, it's not that good right now. Our form is not that good right now. I know we played some difficult games against Villa. We've also played difficult game against Liverpool, but you know, in our last 5 games, we've only like what won 1 or something like that. So technically, we're not in that good of form. And if you don't get 3 points away at Fulham, then it kind of feels like, yeah, you're in that little bit of a space where it's like, are we in a top 4 race, or are we in a title challenge? We could go top of the league tomorrow when we win, I think, or we can stay 4th, which is where we are now. So we definitely need to win this game. And like I said, every game is a must win for Arsenal, but this definitely feels a little bit different. There's a lot of panic on the timeline. There's a lot of people that are making some huge claims about the players, the manager, and I do feel like that West Ham game really just kind of kicked it off. We're also going to talk about some of the things that came out today around the January transfer window. I've been kind of like trying to keep you guys updated on that and what's being said about, Arsenal's pursuit of a striker, who's going to stay, who's going to leave, is anybody going to leave? Tomiyasu is also back, but yeah, we kind of needed you for the last couple of games. So like, what does this even mean? So yeah, you guys, make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. There's 41 of you guys in here, which is great, which means to me that, or says to me that you guys still love me, even though my computer was acting up. Dodd says, Jess, I don't think Brentford will sell Toney. They're in free fall big time. They need Toney's goals to stay up. And here's the thing, it's, the price has gone up on Toney. I think when we originally started talking about the Toney deal or potential Toney deal, we were talking about like, 50, 60 million. Now they're talking about 100 million, which to them, that's what he's worth. To Arsenal, he cannot be worth 100 million. He's not a 100 million pound striker, not in the January window, not on any planet is he worth that amount to Arsenal. So I'm not surprised that Arsenal are not really looking like they're going to pursue that. David Ornstein has spoken about it. And I know that somebody will be like, but David Ornstein doesn't always get things right, but he gets a lot of shit right. He gets a lot of things right, so if we're talking about who's most likely to get the information correct around Arsenal, it's most likely David Ornstein. Despite the one time that he got the Pepe thing wrong, he's pretty much spot on all the time. And basically what he said is that Brentford would like 100 million in January for Ivan Toney. There's been no real contact or movement from interested clubs. Arsenal striker targets would be more a summer move than a January for financial reasons. The consistent talk about Arsenal's financial issues is what makes it very difficult to see how Arsenal are going to improve the squad without selling players, right? And so Arsenal are constantly rumored to be after Ivan Toney, but like David Ornstein is saying, there doesn't seem to be any developments on that front. Alex Crook has said that Arsenal do not want to sell Eddie Nketiah in January, despite fresh interest from Crystal Palace. He's seen as a key member of Arsenal's Mikel Arteta squad. I bitched about this yesterday and I'll bitch about it today. I don't understand how he could be so important to the team. Um, I feel like that just shows like the limit, like the lack of quality that we have in attacking areas. Is Eddie and Nketiah seem as a very important part of the team. Like, if anything, Eddie should be like well down the pecking order when it comes to Arsenal attackers. And I get that he's available and he plays hard and all that kind of stuff, but he really does get preference over more talented players. Now, some of the more talented players maybe are a little bit more inconsistent, have injury issues, but make no mistake about it, Trossard, Reece Nelson, ESR, all three of them are more talented than Eddie Nketiah, but he's the next man up. He's the most important player off of the bench in attacking positions for Mikel Arteta, and they keep making that abundantly clear. I would be selling him to Crystal Palace like that. Like that. No, I would have no problem doing that because I could reinvest that money into something else. And maybe there's something we don't know. There's something we don't know. If we sell Eddie and Nketiah, maybe we can't use that money because it's not enough to balance the books. But you got to try. You have several different players that are getting interest now. You have to try to do something with the squad because, again, I think we've missed like 16 big chances in the last 4 or 5 games. 16. Not 6, 16 big chances. Um, and that's just not good enough. While Victor Osimhen has been mentioned, Napoli stated the demand of 150 million is completely out of the London club, meaning Arsenal's price range. Arsenal were already close to their FFP limit in the summer. Arteta has been weighing up which positions to prioritize with a restricted budget, but his side's recent struggles in front of goal have increasingly convinced him of a need to bolster the attack. Arsenal are investigating whether a deal can be done for Ivan Toney. This is from Miguel Delaney, by the way. As Mikel Arteta wants the Brentford forward and now leans towards a striker for the window business. The Independent has been told that Arsenal's preference is to do the deal in January. And so basically Miguel Delaney versus what David Ornstein is saying. David Ornstein is saying no striker. Miguel Delaney is saying, based on what's gone on in the last couple of weeks, Arsenal have decided to move an attacker forward as a priority. Now, some of you guys are probably like, what do you mean by it's a mess, Jess? Like, because that's the title of the show. It's like, what a mess. And we're not really in a mess because, like, oh, Tomiyasu is coming back and we're only a couple points off the top and, blah, blah, blah. We're not that bad. What I mean by a mess is that when you've spent 200 million in the summer window and you get to the January window and you're desperate to make signings, but you can't make those signings because you're in FFP trouble, it's a mess because Arsenal are in another really good situation where they can win the title. Now, looking at what we've done so far in the league, we've dropped too many points already, and we would have to basically go back to the form that we had at the beginning of last season and have that for the second half in order to win the league. But we don't really know what's going to happen with everybody in the second half of the season. My assumption is that Manchester City will do what they always do. But what if they don't? What if there's an opportunity for Arsenal to get just 5% better from now until like the end of the season and win it? And what would that 5% look like? How do you get that additional 5%? We also are in multiple competitions. I don't want to go out of the FA Cup early. It's a shame that we already have Liverpool, but here we are, and then we have Champions League. So, and with Champions League, by the time February 21st rolls around, you would hope that the only thing that we're looking forward to is not just Tomiyasu coming back, because Tomiyasu, Timber, and Partey are not going to score goals for us. So that additional 5%, does that come with Tomiyasu and Thomas Partey in the team? I don't think so. I think that extra 5% probably comes from either Martinelli coming back into form or bringing in an attacker. And that's what Arsenal need to be looking at, because you can't consistently throw away opportunities to win trophies. That was kind of like okay when, we were building the squad and all that kind of stuff. But now we're seeing good opportunity. And like, here's the thing. Last season, it was just us and City. It was basically just us. And then City came up. Now it's us, City, and Aston Villa and Liverpool. What do we think is going to happen next season? And so listen, we spoke about this a lot yesterday about the attacking situation that we have. And it is a situation. When you miss 16 big chances in 4 or 5 games, it just cannot go down as like nothing is happening, you know? But it can be rectified with a signing or Martinelli coming back into form. And our players stop shitting the bed in front of goal. I wanted to show you guys this from Billy Carpenter, who does amazing work statistically, this really good statistic work. And, he was talking about Arsenal before and after the update to dynamics. And sorry, the dynamic that he spoke about was the dynamic around Odegaard, which I've been talking about for a while now, is that since Odegaard has shifted, basically since the Lens game, Wolves, Luton, uh, Brighton, all these games, Villa, he's played in a deeper role, and that's helped us create more chances. And so ever since then, which is basically what he's saying, though it is easy, he said the match against Wolves was the real Premier League debut of the deeper, freer Odegaard role and all the interlocking updates that were to follow. Here are the impacts on the team's level. And I know you guys are probably like, fuck these statistics. Like, what are you talking about? I don't want to see them. But basically, what he's saying is that there are two before the update and after the update. Before we had fewer chances and shots, more penalties, and better luck. So basically, we were getting away with it. First 10 games of the season, we remember we weren't really creating any chances, but we were just kind of like by hook or by crook scoring goals, right? After that change, after Odegaard had, got fit from his injury, let's be real, he was injured, and then took on that deeper role, we had way better everything. 12.32 more open play shot creating actions plus 6 more shots per game, but we've had worse luck and more misses. Right? Worse misses. We're missing a lot, We're not scoring enough. Like they need to start scoring goals. And tomorrow is a really good opportunity to start fucking doing that, because it's really a shame that I'm starting to feel like going to Craven Cottage is going to be very difficult. Last season that was like, to me, Fulham away last season was, I thought, our best away performance, most complete. We whooped their ass. Like we really did. It was I could go back and watch that game today and probably cry at how beautiful the football was, the amount of chances that we scored, or the amount of chances that we created, the amount of, we limited them to basically nothing. We played them off the park. Now I feel like we're going there and it's going to not be like that. And that is how a couple of bad games can really make you feel like maybe you're never going to win another game. Arsenal, I'll look at our form right now. Yeah, you guys, our form is not good. It's not good. In the last 5 games, we've lost 2, drawn 1, and won 2. That's not good. That's not good form. And when you look at it, the 2 games that stand out the most are the loss against Villa and the loss against Villa and the loss against West Ham. Both of those should have been wins, right? And so we go into a game against Fulham feeling maybe not at our best, but it's definitely a winnable game, just like most of our games for the next 4 or 5 games are very winnable fixtures. So Arsenal need to be accruing points as quickly as possible, but I'm getting this weird feeling around our attack that a very weird feeling around our attack that, are they going to be able to get it together? I mean, I don't know, and here's the other thing is I said this on Twitter today as well. Arsenal can improve their attack without having to spend 100 million on Toney. It's not Toney or nothing. It's not 100 million on Toney or get nothing in the attack. There are plenty of players that you could look at that play in the Prem, don't play in the Prem, that could be clever attacking signings in January. Think about all the creative, clever forward signings that have happened in the last couple of seasons for Premier League teams. Luis Diaz, Jota, Kulusevski, Trossard, just to name a few. and they all cost under 45 million. Kulusevski was like 25 million. Trossard was 27 million. Luis Diaz was like 45 million. Jota was like 35 million. So it's not Toney or nothing. And so I'm not going to kind of like, I feel like the feeling that I'm getting from Arsenal right now is because we can't go out and get the big striker signing that we probably should have got the summer prior, we're going to throw this season away and pretend like we can't make a clever signing. And Arsenal fans will try to gaslight you into thinking that that's just the norm. It's the January window, so you can't really do anything. But our contemporaries will sign good quality players in January that don't cost 100 million, that'll improve their squad, and we will sit there on our hands. So Arsenal do not have to spend 100 million on Toney to improve their attack. They don't. What we need is a dynamic forward that is better than Eddie and Nelson. That is not that difficult to do. I've been watching the Premier League today. There are plenty of players that play in the attacking mid and forward positions that are better than Eddie and Nelson. That would add so much more value. So let's not sit here and act like we can't do anything. I want to see Arsenal be creative and clever in the January window instead of consistently sitting on their hands and pretending that because it's not a typical window where you do big business, that means you don't do anything. And that also doesn't mean you go to Chelsea and take Jorginho and you go to Brighton and go get Trossard. You can get young, dynamic, exciting players for smaller fees if you're creative and clever with your scouting. And so I'm not taking this, especially because we have players in the team right now that Arteta's not using or are not good enough that we're actively batting away interest for. So that is my like thing about that, period, is we are not in a position where we cannot do anything. If we don't do anything, it's because we were not clever, we were not creative, and we didn't make big decisions when we probably should have. Like for me, it's very strange to see Arsenal make a huge decision on goalkeeper that really didn't need to be done. Like the ruthlessness that was used to oust Ramsdale out of his position and bring in Raya, leave Ramsdale in the team and do a loan with like some sort of obligation, but you won't sell Eddie and bring in Neto to save our season, to make sure we have goals in the team. Listen, that's all I'm saying is that when you make ruthless, big, bold decisions on things that aren't as important, it makes sitting on your hands, like in this situation, it looks weird in the light. It doesn't look great. Boy says, I don't care about Ramsdale. Martinez is better than any keeper that has played since that FA Cup win. The Eddie says, I agree with that. Doing nothing would be a mistake. Asha says, Yoni, you are not, but Partey is not fit. Ingoni. Okay, I don't know what that means. AJ says Toney is doing his preseason now. He is the hugest player in the world. He is fighting for his England career. He is perfect. Listen, we don't have 100 million to spend. I know that. I don't think we have 100 million to spend, and that is a plan shifting signing. When you spend 100 million on a player, it shifts a lot. Because it's just not something that you should just do willy-nilly. And like I said, Toney made a lot more sense at 50, 60 million. He just did. A lot more sense at 50, 60 million. At 100 million, it doesn't make sense anymore to me, because that's going to change a lot about what we're going to do in the summer. But that doesn't mean you don't do anything. That doesn't mean you don't go to Wolves and say 45 million for Neto. That, or at least try to do that. You could go try to do something, but the whole Toney thing is, people love Toney and he's attainable and available and twerking, but at 100 million, that to me just feels like pure desperation. And even though I do feel like we're kind of in a desperate situation, I don't know if we're that desperate. Like I said, good scouting, being creative and being clever requires like Edu to go out there and actually do some shit. Go out there and find, a João Pedro type that's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, but you can get in January because that club needs money. Like it's a requirement for Edu's job to do this stuff. Boy says, I'm so shook that Neto for 45 is being bandied around. I'm just giving ideas, even if it's not Neto for 60 or 45 or whatever. People are also forgetting that you don't have to pay it all up front. Sometimes you can pay it, most of the time you pay it in small installments. So I'm not like, even if it is 60, you can still get Neto, it's a long-term target. Get him, like, or at least attempt to go get him, attempt to go get somebody that's not gun shy in front of the goal, because we have too many people that look like they can't hit a barn door right now. Here to there says, I agree, doing nothing is the number one unacceptable option. Arteta needs to be decisive, act with urgency. Tomorrow isn't promised in the Prem. And that's the thing. It's like, even if people are like, oh my God, Neto, I can't believe you said Neto. Take that name out of it. I'm saying that there are plenty. Like, I feel like people get like very like into the weeds about the details about it. That's not my job. My job is not to figure out who it has to be. That's Edu's job. But there are players out there that exist, because you know how I know those players exist? Because I know some of our contemporaries will buy those players in January. And we'll be sitting there saying, there's nobody that we could have got in January. There's just no way. You have to be clever. Your director of football, your head of recruitment, your technical director has got to be clever when you need them to be. And Edu is not, he's not clever enough to me. We always kind of take either it has to be the big signing or it has to be somebody that just like we know is like a stopgap, like Trossard and Jorginho. Listen, come on now. Aman says, I guarantee that Toney won't cost 100 million. We have a good relationship with Brentford, but we'll see what happens. EW says, egregious. Neto will be a very good addition to the squad. Arsenal is not going to buy Toney for 100 million in Jan, and adding a wide forward who can cover for both Saka and Martinelli is needed. And just keep them honest. Martinelli knows right now, no matter how bad he plays, he's going to start the next day. But the one time that he was sat down for Trossard last season, the very next game, boom, he was ready to go. There's no pressure on them to play well. When you have Nketiah as the next man up, and you have Nelson who doesn't get any playing time, and you have Trossard who just looks like he's off in La La Land and doesn't do the same things as you, on a daily basis, no matter how bad you play, sometimes it just takes somebody to put a light under your ass, and Arteta, he takes the competition away from the team. We have a good squad. It starts out looking good, and then slowly we lose the players that could potentially be fighting for starting positions because they know they're never going to really get over the starters. And I get that a lot of times the starters are the starters, but yeah, I would feel pretty demoralized if I was Fabio Vieira and Reece Nelson and ESR, because I know no matter how good I play Trossard, that the first guy up off the bench every week is going to be Eddie Nketiah. So the Arsenal perspective says we cannot engage in the whole Wenger, Shamak, Gervinho talk, and we couldn't find better in the market, Tosh. We cannot have any of that. Edu and Arteta must be put under that pressure. We're too easy to like accept things for like just because the club is saying it. Like if the club says they couldn't find anybody, then that's just what it is. But I feel like they should be able to find somebody we're Arsenal. Like, get out there and find an attacker that you can spend the money on, whether it's 45 million or whatever like that. Break it down into payments, bring them in. Like, I don't know. It's up to you to figure that out. But the January windows have gone past have shown you that if you're clever in the market, you can find good attacking players that can help your squad get to the end of the season. It doesn't always have to be £100 million striker. It just doesn't, So, and I don't believe that we need to panic buy Toney, but I don't think we should be so cavalier and so arrogant that we can only buy £100 million signings. So anything below that, we won't even look at, Saksham says we have to start having uncomfortable conversations about selling Martinelli. No, we don't. Aman says facts, Jess, we cannot drop our starters because the bench options are currently not good enough. But again, I don't even know if I believe that they're not good enough. I've said this many times. I think the way that Arteta uses the gray areas of the squad renders those players useless because You mean do you guys actually believe that Eddie Nketiah is earning his position based on the fact that he is better than Fabio Vieira, better than Emil Smith Rowe, better than Nelson? Like his talent level is just that much higher? No, he. Arteta actively, for me, demoralizes the players that are on the outskirts of the starting 11. That's how I feel. I just don't think that you can have like a consistent pattern of anybody who's not a starter does not put in consistent performances on a regular basis. Players that come with a lot of acclaim when they come in, players that are highly rated, like no matter who they are, if they're on the outskirts of the starting 11, they cannot impact the team when they come in. To me, that is a man management issue, not necessarily a talent one, because even when you look at it, you're not even getting, like, we're not even getting anywhere near the maximum amount out of those players of their talent level. We have not seen Fabio Vieira at his best on a consistent basis. We've not seen Emil Smith Rowe at his best at a consistent basis. You don't see Reece Nelson at his best. You don't even see Trossard at his best on a consistent basis anymore. Kivior, they all are kind of like, you might get a little glimpse here, you might get a little glimpse there, but we know these players are better than that. Sambi even is better than that, better than what he was showing. To me, it's more of a man management issue than anything else. And so even if they're not totally good enough, you can't say that Arteta is getting the best that he possibly can out of that group. He's not. Like, he's not. Like, let's be serious, you know? So that's just where I'm at with it. If you don't come from the Premier League and you're not ready to go, you won't make it. You won't make it. You just won't, you know? Um, I just see too much of a pattern there for it to be Emil's not good, Reece not good, Fabio Vieira's not good, Kivior's not good, um, Sambi's not good. None of these players are any good, but Eddie, he's good. Arteta's getting the maximum out of one player on the bench to me, and that's Eddie. We're seeing the best Eddie can give, but we haven't seen anywhere near the best version of any of the other players. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Um, Tishafa says, Nketiah used to chase the ball, but now he doesn't seem to care. Chosen One says, Jess, do you have any ideas who to get? You don't think Crystal Palace would bite on an offer for Eze? No. No. But again, this is also what I'm saying, like, when we talk about our attacking options, I'm starting to watch the Premier League and really get a good, like, idea of where we need to improve. The likes of Eze, Elise, unfortunately, Cole Palmer, Morgan Gibbs White, these players they wouldn't walk into our team, but they would definitely make it difficult for some of our players. They have things that our players just don't show on a consistent basis. And some of them have like moments of real quality and magic that I'm not sure that our team really has. We've seen it from Saka a couple of times where he can make something out of nothing, like the goal that he scored against Nottingham Forest. But who else in our team does that? Like, who can just take the game by the scruff of the neck and score goals that, you know, you don't really, the system is not scoring for them, if that makes sense. We don't really have that. So we 100% need to improve our attacking options. They're not good enough. The fact that the only player that comes off of the bench that gets consistent game time is Eddie is not good enough, you know? And you could just look around the Premier League and see that Arsenal definitely don't have the best attack in the league. And we're not even anywhere near it. We're nowhere near it, you know? But I think, again, like, I'm not really talking about like Saka. I think Saka out of the front three is the only one that I feel like is probably going to get a lot of criticism based on pretty much nothing. If he doesn't carry us, nothing else happens. I think the other players need to start doing a little bit more, you know, but that's just me. You know, I'm looking around at the Premier League and I'm like, some of these players would probably get into our team right now. They would get into our team. Eze would get into our team. Elise would get into our team, you know. I don't know. Tawanda says Martinelli should be dropped. Trossard needs a run of games. Ricardo says, great to see you working so hard on your channel, Jess. I wish you much success. Keep up the good work and love your content. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Sometimes my brain moves faster than like my mouth to speak. Like I'm saying so many things are coming in my brain and I'm just like, you know, but what I want to tell you guys is, so there's 200 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys are setting your notifications, liking the video and subscribing and all that kind of stuff, because I'm working on something that I can't wait to give you guys this, like, or to show you guys this, because I'm working really hard on. All I can really say right now is that in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be relaunching Patreon as a different sort of community for Arsenal fans, and I have a couple of people lined up as consistent guests for that. If you guys, this is just a sidebar before we get into the Fulham conversation fully, but over the last couple of months, I had started the Patreon and I love it. And so far, it's growing at a decent rate, like more than I thought people would actually want to be a part of it. But, you do trial and error. And one of the things that I found out is that I love having a consistent group of guests that come on weekly instead of a rotating door, because it kind of feels like you can't keep those conversations going because it's a different person every week. And so I have a couple of people that have been on the channel before, committed to being a part of this community and this new look podcast that I'm starting in January. So I want you guys to have your notifications on so you guys get all the information on it, because I think you guys are going to really like it. We're going to start a Discord as well. Like there's a lot of things coming. And so if you guys have been here for a while, you guys remember when we used to do the pods with like George and Harry and Souls. That was probably like the best time on the channel, like in terms of like, getting a good roundtable discussion. We're bringing that back, but better. Like that's all I can really say. That's all I can really say. So, set your notifications so you don't miss out on it. But I'm glad you guys are enjoying the content. CeeLo says, I like Gibbs White. I do too. When I said it a couple of days or a couple weeks ago, and people were like, well, what do you like about him? I'm like, do you guys not watch? Like, he's really good. And like, the thing about Morgan Gibbs White is I don't think he'd, like, if we were to get him, I don't think Arteta would be able to demoralize him the way that he's done some of the other players, especially ones that come from uh, other leagues. He would just, I think he would just walk straight into our team and make a difference. Boy says Arteta keeps on playing Martinelli on the left when he's woefully out of form because he's the only player that has the flair to survive an isolated wing role. Yeah, you know, there's no other option, because he won't change the system to suit Trossard. So when Trossard is out there, he looks like shit. Then Martinelli's not in form, he looks like shit, and then he won't try anything else. He won't modify anything. So, it is what it is. C. Walter says he was absolutely going for it against United earlier. He probably is a United fan and wants to go there. I can see Morgan Gibbs White at Man United for some reason, but we should be looking at him as well. I think Morgan Gibbs White, I think you just look at the talent in the Premier League sometimes, and we could use, like, if Emile Smith Rowe and Fabio Vieira are not going to work, then it would not be that bad to maybe look at him to replace one or if not both of them. So yeah, but Morgan Gibbs White, Eze, Olise, these are players that play outside of the big six, and I think would not look strange in our team. They would not look strange in our team. Saksham says Nelson is more talented, but Arteta has favorites. Nelson is very talented. I think he doesn't. Arteta doesn't nurture those talents. Like if you don't start, you don't get any love. Like you don't get the arm, you don't get anything, and so you're just out to. And then when you don't play well, then it's just like it's almost like confirming it. Then Arteta's like, see, that player's not good enough. That's why I play Eddie. And it's like, no, I see your game. I see your game. I see what you're doing here. You don't set them up for success. You don't give them multiple games in a row. You don't play them with the starters. And then when they don't play well, then you use that as a reason not to continue to not play them. I see your game. I've seen it before. Zahid says Eze isn't as good as Gibbs White. Jess, come on. Eze is fantastic. And I don't think Gibbs White or Eze would look weird in the Arsenal team at all. So I don't even know if that needs to be like a Eze is better than Gibbs White or anything like that. My overall point is that the two of them would not look weird in an Arsenal shirt. You know? Lionide says Brendan Johnson was a bigger prospect for Forest. Look what happened. He never really stood out to me like that, if I'm honest with you. And When he missed that chance against us in the first game of the season, I was like, yeah, he's no. He should have buried that against us. We made a huge mistake, and he didn't put it in the back of the net. He doesn't seem I don't think at any point he'll be like a really like clinical, serious finisher. I think he's just a talented player, but he went to the right place. He went to Spurs. Dale says, I love Eze. I'm shocked no one grabbed him in the summer. They tried to. City tried to get him. And I think Spurs also wanted him. So I think we're a little arrogant too as Arsenal fans. I think we look at players that don't play for the traditional big six and we think, oh, well, especially if they're English, that they're not very good. If they're English, then it's like, oh, it's just English hype. But Morgan Gibbs White is playing week in and week out at Nottingham Forest. And sometimes he's wearing the captain's armband. He's dragging them. He's trying to get them to get going. Um, I think he'd do really well in a top 6 team. I do. Like, I just think he has the personality for it. So, yeah. But, you guys, we have Fulham tomorrow, and we need to talk about it. We really do. Because it's a must win. It's a must win in December, because if we don't win it, we're easing into the top 4 discussion rather than the title discussion. It's tight up there, we're dropping points a lot. Every time our, contemporaries drop points, we drop points too. And so that pisses me off, because we need to do much, much, much better. Much, much, much better. Fulham are I think they started to play kind of okay, and then they dropped away again. Guys, they've lost their last 3 games. Fulham have lost their last 3 games. To Bournemouth, to Burnley, and to Newcastle. Arsenal, I'm not even joking. You need to be beating them. You need to be beating them. They have not won in their last 3. And yeah, the 2 games before that, they fluked these 5-0 wins. They fluked these 5-0 wins. I never really bought into those being something special. It's not. But even before that, they barely beat Wolves. They lost to Villa. They lost to Man United. They drew to Brighton. They lost to Tottenham. They beat Sheffield. They lost to Chelsea. Guys, we cannot be not winning this game, and I don't know why it feels as though it's going to be a hard game to win. It should not be. And listen, we absolutely battered West Ham chance-wise and all that kind of stuff, but we're more susceptible defensively than we were a couple weeks ago because of the obvious person that's back there. And to be honest, it's the calamity levels of the mistakes from Zinchenko that I think are really annoying, because when you look at the goal that we conceded against West Ham, the first one, it was just him again getting into Gabriel's way. It didn't make any sense. He got into Gabriel's way, not to clear it, not to do anything. Like, he just kind of like ran into him, and it didn't make any sense. Like, I'm like, what are you doing? But again, when you don't nurture the talent that you have in Kivior, then when Tomiyasu inevitably gets injured, you have to play Zinchenko. Arteta backed himself into a corner. Kivior is not a bad player at all, but he has not been integrated into the team. So any other team would have given Kivior more minutes. This idea that there's no good time to play Kivior, and if you play him, something will happen. It cannot be any worse than what we're seeing now from Zinchenko, where he's making very obvious mistakes. And like, yes, what he does in possession is great, but yeah, it's at this stage, it's getting to be a little bit like maybe he needs to sit too, because it's every game now where there's something. He makes against Liverpool, he makes a mistake that's not punished, where Salah kicks it in the side netting. Then he gets caught out because he's not holding the line because he's afraid of Salah's speed. And then they score. Against Brentford, he gives away the ball, has to clear it off the line. Against Burnley, he makes not against Burnley, it was against somebody else. Wolves, he made the mistake. Against West Ham, he makes the mistake. It's just becoming so constant that I'm like, is he begging to come out? Is he begging to come out? And so for me, it's just a little bit like, but you don't trust Kivior because you did that thing to him where you played him in one game and he didn't play, maybe he didn't play as well. And then you tried him here and they didn't do as well. And then it's like, okay, well, he's not good enough. So I'm just going to sit him on the bench. Like, it would have been nice to be able to have Kivior as an option because he's the player that you actually bought to play left center mid, left back. He's the player, so it's annoying. Jamal says, I see your super chat, Brandon. Just give me 1 second. Arteta is showing his naivety at top flight manager. Saksham says players still celebrate. We are top at Christmas trophy. Nuances of Fate says we all knew Zinchenko was poor at defending at City. Don't really know why people thought it'd be different for us. To me, it's not so. It's the consistent mistakes. I can accept that you're going to get cooked by certain wingers and stuff like that. I can accept that, but what he's doing now is like individual errors. That's different than losing an individual battle. You know what I mean? He's doing things that are just brain dead, And a lot of these things are in possession too. So that's my problem is with Zinchenko is that I can accept that the risk versus reward with him is that he's not a great defender, but what he does in possession is great. But right now, what it's kind of becoming now is more of like he's just sabotaging us at every chance. And that's unforgivable for me because he's 27. He's not young. And so he should not be hurting us like this. Like he should be able to realize that he needs to do the basics and stop fucking around because what he did against West Ham really pissed me off because he also was culpable for running into Odegaard and tackling Odegaard. He's been doing this thing lately where I don't know if it's like an ego thing with him or what, but he's like, I'm going to go get it. Like there was one of those against Wolves too, where the ball goes back and him and Saliba are both going towards that ball. And he acts like he's going to go for it. So Saliba kind of goes away from it, and then Zinchenko kind of passes it back half-heartedly, and Hwang almost gets it and goes around Raya, and Raya saves it. I can name them consistently how many times like he's ran into somebody or acted like he was going to get it, and like Rice wins the ball against Wolves, and Zinchenko acts like he's going to go to it, and then when he goes to it, he just kind of half-heartedly does something with it, and then they take it off of his toe and kick it in the back of the net. He acts like he's ego is like, I'm going to get the ball. I'm supposed to be the guy. And then when he gets to it, he doesn't do anything. And he did the same thing to Gabriel. He comes across, he's in the best position to probably clear it. Gabriel's right there. And instead of him clearing it, he just kind of like does nothing. And he has to come out. Like he has to come out at some point. Arteta needs to save us. Like stop playing around. Like I think Zinchenko is very good in what we want him to do going forward. But at some point, you have to drop them. You have to say, listen, you're making too many mistakes. The individual errors are so frequent now that I have to do something else. And the thing is like, I get that we don't have that many options, but you have to trust somebody to come in. And right now he's put kind of like us in a situation now where we don't trust Kivior as much. And it's annoying. AJ says fans want Kieran Tierney gone. Hope you're happy with yourselves. Do you guys, Kieran Tierney fans, are you guys aware that he hasn't played for Sociedad like at all because he's been injured? Yeah, like no amount of Zinchenko mistakes or Kivior mistakes or Tomiyasu injuries means that keeping Kieran Tierney was a good thing, or would have been a good thing. Let it go. Like, let it go. Blaze says Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus had disappointed me the way that they playing poor in the last few games. They need to step up. because they are experienced players and should give good examples to young players, they're not going to step up. That's the thing, is I think we know what their limitations are. They need to be a part of a team that's already kind of going, and they add a level of quality technically. But in terms of like the mentality, leading the team, those types of things in the pressured moments, they're not going to give it to us. So I don't even expect them to do those things. Like, I would kind of expect Zinchenko to maybe be able to nip out the individual errors, but I definitely don't expect this to lead us to anything. He's not going to be able to do that. Last season showed that. Either they're injured or they're playing against us. Like, you know? Um, so yeah. Uh Only as the day says, get Santi Jimenez. Kenneth says, we're in a mess. Hopefully we win this game tomorrow. We're on the edges of a mess for sure. Tashafa says, we paid a lot of money for Timber and all he has produced is an injury. I don't even know how Timber can be a part of the conversation. An ACL is incredibly unlucky. So I don't know. It's like, what does Timber have to do with anything? Aman says, hopefully Arteta and the players learn that dominance and control is not enough. They have to also be effective in both boxes. Otherwise, we have more games like West Ham. Exactly. So, yeah, I'm just at the point now where I just want to see the team learn from their mistakes, and their main mistakes over the last 5 games has been not putting the ball in the back of the net. So, as much as people want to, try to blame it on other things, like these players have missed 6 big chances in the last like 4 or 5 games. 16. That's a lot. That's insane. There's almost 300 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. Tawanda says, love KT, but he's always injured. Exactly. Like, there's no amount of errors at left back that can mean that we needed to keep Kieran Tierney. And if I'm honest with you guys, Kieran Tierney has gotten skint a lot in his time at Arsenal as well. He wasn't necessarily the best defensive player. What Kieran Tierney was good at was bombing forward and putting in crosses. And so I don't know how that helped us from getting scored against, but keep cooking, guys. Keep cooking. Kanye Rezi says Rico Lewis gets time to play. Can Lino Sousa get time? There's never a good time to play young players, apparently. That's what Mikel Arteta basically says. If a dead rubber against PSV was not a good time to play kids, then there's never going to be a good time to play kids for the rest of the season, because we're never going to have another opportunity to have a game that's inconsequential to what we're doing. Every game from now into the end of the season has a consequence. And so if he was not confident enough to play them against PSV and a dead rubber, that would not have changed anything. That we still drew, by the way. He's not going to play them. So I've given up on any of the kids playing this season. Every other team, even top 6 teams, put in kids in games that mean something, and it doesn't collapse their season. Arteta is the only one that acts as though it's going to collapse the season. And the decisions that he's making right now could potentially collapse us. So I don't know. Keep trusting Cedric. That makes a lot of sense. CeeLo says, I'm not someone who is heavily on implementing youth, but at least we have Walters to play right back or center back to see if he can take White ball place also. That way Timber can be on the left. I think we're so in the throes of we're kind of in that thing with Arteta now where he's under so much pressure that he's almost like in, what is that word? Almost like frozen, where he's just going to continue to do the same things until it's almost like lost. Like, Arteta did not decide to stop playing Rob Holding until the league was finished, until the title race was done. Then he started to play Kivior, and it was really embarrassing because then we went to Newcastle and we won. We played against Chelsea and we won, and Kivior didn't look like a bad player. No, he still needed to work on some things. Like, he wasn't perfect, but it definitely always was the better option than continuing to play Rob Holding. But Arteta doesn't change things until we've lost something. And so I expect him to continue to play Zinchenko and to continue to play Martinelli and continue on. Like, I don't expect him to change anything. You know what I mean? Santana, thank you so much for your comment. I've never seen you before. Said, hi, Jess. If Eddie stays, I'm happy because I believe he's a good plan B player, but I've always said he needs a partner. And if Toney signs, I think the partnership will be good. I think a better partnership would be Jesus and Toney. I don't think Nketiah I don't think he would make a good partnership with Toney. Like, I think, like, when you look at the way, like, him and Mbomo play against each other, it's like the creativity, the vision and things like that. Like, Eddie could only be the guy finishing off the chances. And so if you have Toney creating like, you idealistically you want Jesus doing what he does with Havertz. That's a good partnership. So if you remove Havertz and make that Toney, Jesus can create for Toney. Toney can create for Jesus, but Nketiah can't create for Toney. You know, he doesn't have that in his locker. So he's an okay plan B for a team that's not fighting for a title. Um, you know, if we were, you know, outside of the top 6 or whatever and we were, you know, just fighting for Europe, Eddie's perfectly fine as a plan B, but as a team that's actively trying to fight for a title, he's not good enough. But yeah, that strike partnership doesn't really strike me as something that would have the right balance, but Jesus Toney would probably have a better balance, but that's just me. That's just me. Let's see. Zahid says the best partnership will be Havertz plus Toney. JD says, hate to say it, but got to be Gabriel Martinelli. Sell him for 70, 80 million. Not sure who would take him if he doesn't up his form, but I guess it would have to be to Liverpool. Why are we acting like we need to sell Gabriel Martinelli, though? I don't understand that. Why are we talking about selling Gabriel Martinelli? You guys, be serious for 5 seconds. He's in poor form, but we have so many other players that need to leave this freaking club before Gabriel Martinelli needs to leave the club. The thing is what we all it's like it's the same thing. It's like people were complaining this season this summer about selling Xhaka. They were like, we should have kept Xhaka, dropped him to the bench and bought somebody else to put above him, right? Now you guys want to sell Martinelli. You want to sell Martinelli, you want to sell Jesus and sell Zinchenko, but leave, you know, guys like Emil Smith Rowe and Nketiah and these guys in the team. Get rid of them first. Get rid of them first. Get rid of Ramsdale, Nketiah, ESR, these guys. Get rid of them first. You know, because as much as the problem that we have right now is Zinchenko and Jesus are players that have to start and they're not in that great a form, so they're hurting us. But as squad players, they're not going to kill us off. Like, they're not going to kill us off. Um, but selling Gabriel Martinelli just because he's in bad form is nonsense. Somebody on the stream yesterday was saying sell Saka. Please, you guys, be serious for 5 seconds. We don't need to sell either one of like our young wingers. We need to add quality to a group. That is because if you can add other players to this, then when players inevitably go through bad patches of form like Martinelli is, we can replace them. We can replace them with those players, but we don't have those options. So I'd rather add to what we have. Like, I would love to keep Jesus, Saka, and Martinelli and just add a striker to replace Nketiah and a wing player to replace Nelson. Problem solved without having to get rid of some of our better players. And you know what? If Martinelli was on the market, tons of teams would be interested in him because he is a really, really good young player. And I don't think that he may be playing shit right now, but this is what we do though. As a fan base, like we're so annoying. Like, we're so freaking annoying. Anytime one of our players is not playing well, instead of speaking about it in real time, it always has to go into like some deep, dark, like dark place of like sell Martinelli, sell Odegaard, sell Saka. Have some shame. Sell Eddie, sell ESR. We should be those are the players that need to get out because they're the ones that don't support our good players. So when they inevitably have bad runs of form, there's nobody to pick up the slack. They're the ones that are hurting us. Like, come on now. Come on now. Amon says, sell Martinelli, be serious. Exactly. We need to hashtag be serious. I'm gonna put that up. Because you guys, be serious. Be serious. You guys are so funny. Be serious, guys. Okay. So Fulham, what we saying? What we saying? What we saying? What we saying? And the main thing about ESR for me, that for people that are like, why would I want to sell ESR? It's not necessarily about his talent level. It's more about the fact that we can't rely upon him. And I keep the same energy with everybody who's injury prone. I just feel like you need to move them on. You know, I feel less excited about Tomiyasu coming back because he's back in training. than I did before because I know it's inevitable that he'll get another injury in an important moment. So he was missing in the games that we really needed him to be there. And now he'll go to Asia Cup and we don't know what condition he'll come back in. And if he plays, he'll play all the way up until we need him. We need him really like an important games, and then he'll get injured again because that's the cycle. They're out, they're there, and then they're out for December, and then they're there, and then they're out for the run-in. That's just how it goes. So with ESR, it's not so much about a talent thing. I would love for Arteta to use him more. I think he's a talented player, but he's injury prone and is never going to be able, like, he's not somebody that we can rely upon. He needs to go. Tomiyasu is starting to creep into that category for me, and Thomas Partey definitely has to go. So Fulham, at least Havertz is coming back. You know, I never would have thought that he would be such a key player for us, but we did miss him against West Ham for height, obviously. Somebody was saying this, and I agreed with this, is that when you peel back the first layer of Arsenal, what you lose most is a lot of our physicality. And that's the truth. When it's like Tomiyasu, Partey gone, no Havertz. These guys give us physicality and height and things like that. And when you see the players that come in and like Jorginho and Zinchenko and Trossard, you lose a lot of physicality, a lot of your, you lose a lot of your athleticism, and Arsenal do rely a little bit on their athleticism right now, you know? So I think, Havertz coming back in is super important for us, especially away from home. I think he's going to be fine. I'm glad he's back. And it was just like, one game or whatever because of suspension. Um, Fulham, the feeling that I get around Fulham is that they're a very inconsistent team, and so you never know what you're going to get. But like we saw at home, they're the type of team that will have their best ever game against us, so we need to be ready. And they will be Bayern against us tomorrow if we're not ready. That's just the truth. They have Paulinho, who's a very good midfielder that absolutely ran us off. Like, he was the best midfielder on the day against us at home. I was at the game. And so we know he'll turn up against us. We have ex players too, which is always like what are the chances of Iwobi scoring? What's the chance of Bern Leno having a good game? Because Bern Leno looked like shit the other day, but he will be Neuer on tomorrow. So listen, Arsenal just need to be all the way freaking for real. Hashtag be serious. Go out there. We will dominate the game. We will get into really good goal scoring opportunities because our system allows us to be incredibly dominant, stop them from create chances, and be in their attacking area, like in their box a lot. Arsenal just need to be serious and stop shitting the bed in front of the goal. Put the ball in the back of the net and stop playing around. The same exact chance that, Jesus had against Luton that he put away, he bottled against West Ham. Put it in the back of the net. And don't look so desperate to score. Some of our players look like they just like, it's time to score, and they start tightening up. Relax. You're good. You're good players, and you're better than Fulham. Just do it. Just do it, because we cannot drop points. We cannot drop points. Be serious. Be serious. Just go out there and do it, because we are much better than them. Odegaard is in form. The types of chances that he's creating, he's getting nothing. He's being slandered for not having assists. I'm like, it's not his fault. It's not his fault. Put some of the chances in the back of the net. Odegaard created a chance against West Ham in the first 5 minutes of the game, where he did one of those like soul behind, like, he raked it behind and hit it behind his leg and gave it to Saka. That is a goal that Saka scores last season with his eyes closed. Just freaking score. Just score, I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. But let's see. Brandon is backstage. I'm going to bring him in a second. But I want to know from your guys' perspective, what are the keys to making sure that we get the 3 points? I think it's pretty simple. Like, these types of games are not really about like the tactical battle necessarily, because we should be incredibly dominant in this game and have chances. It's about putting them away. So, are there any changes that you would make? Because I'm also thinking drop Martinelli. That's might be something to do. And maybe even drop Zinchenko, but I'm gonna go ahead and bring Brandon in as soon as I can figure out my life. Um, hey, hold on. I can't hear you. Are you talking?
Yeah, no. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, I can hear you. Hold on real quick. Um, I want to put us like side by side, but okay, so go ahead. I know you wanted to talk about like what we needed in January. If you want to kind of like give me your little synopsis on that, that'd be great.
I was smiling backstage because I like the way you just said just freaking score.
Exactly. Just score. Like I don't know how else, like I don't know what else to tell you guys. Like there's nothing else. We're dominating games, we're creating chances, just put it in the back of the net, right?
Yeah, and look, I think we missed against West Ham. I really do, and it sounds
There we
ironic
go.
because I was probably one of the biggest critics when it come to signing, Kai Havertz. But I actually think he's settled into the team really well, and we definitely missed his aerial presence in the box against West Ham because the amount of times we were putting that ball in the box and there's just nobody there, Jess. It's quite you know ridiculous, really. Last season we had loads of players making runs into the box, late runs into the box, and 9 times out of 10, Martinelli or Saka would find them. But now, we're putting pointless crosses in the box because nobody's there,
Yeah.
and we definitely need a striker, 100%, 100%. I was saying this at the beginning of the season anyway because you
Yeah.
know people were calling me crazy actually because Arsenal scored so many goals last season. We shared them around the pitch very well, but
Mhm.
then we kind of had to think outside the box in the sense that okay, all it takes is for one of these players to stop scoring at the rate that they was last season, and all of a sudden your goals are starting to dry up, and that's exactly what we're seeing so far.
Mhm.
Eddie Nketiah is our top goal scorer, believe it or not. So that tells
Ridiculous.
you everything you need to know about our attacking line at the moment. And Jesus, I believe he's had 2 Premier League goals all season as well. It's not good enough if you want to go out and win the league. And the way that we set up under Mikel Arteta, he wants his number 9 to drop deep. He wants his number 9 to come in and bring other players into the game. We see
Mhm.
that with Lacazette. We see that with Aubameyang towards the end of his Arsenal career as well. That's what Mikel Arteta wants from his number 9. And I just think if you go and get Ivan Toney, he can do that. He's got the physicality as well, but he's also a natural number 9. He knows where to be in the box when he needs to be in the box. Whereas Jesus has never really been a natural number 9, you know.
Mhm.
So I think if you go and get Ivan Toney, I'm not saying he has to start week in, week out for Arsenal, but you've got somebody there who can offer something different. Whereas as we look at Eddie Nketiah, for an example, he doesn't offer anything different to what Gabriel Jesus does. They're both very similar in certain ways. The only difference being is, Jesus is a better player than Eddie Nketiah. So that's an
Mhm.
area we definitely need to address. I don't think any of us saw, Martinelli being as poor as what he has been.
Never. I never saw it coming. I'll
And
be honest.
I mean, players go through these, patches of forms
But
every now
not this
and then.
bad. This
Not
is
this
really
bad,
bad.
not this bad, but you kind of look at it and think, why is that? Because I can't put my finger on it as to why Martinelli is performing as badly as what he has been doing. Because not much has really changed. Let's be real. Like, when Kai Havertz is playing in that position, it's very similar to how Granit Xhaka played for us last season. Declan Rice is doing, let's say, the Thomas Partey role in the midfield, and then he's still got Zinchenko behind him. So not much has really changed. I just think, as of right now, he's really lacking confidence. Really
Yeah.
lacking confidence. I mean, the one thing that we could, always say about Martinelli, especially when he came into this Arsenal team, is the best thing about Martinelli is his dribbling and the way that he takes players on and he creates, chaos. He causes problems just by doing that. Whereas recently I haven't really seen him take anybody on, and his first touch and his dribbling ability is just fallen off a cliff, really.
Is he like
So
like the thing because okay, so everybody always talks about how like even when Saka's not scoring, and even when he doesn't have great games, he still influences everything that we do, like because he touches the ball so much, whatever. So we often, even when he doesn't have his best game, he comes out looking out okay. Martinelli doesn't have that same thing, does he? Like when he's not playing well, if he's not scoring goals and getting assists or anything like that, do you think he's somebody that has to be subbed off because he doesn't offer the same thing Saka does when he's not playing well or not scoring?
I think so. I think because I mean they're different types of player, Bukayo Saka and Martinelli. You know, Martinelli for me is more of a dribbler, more somebody who can cause chaos, whereas the Saka is more got more technical ability, and Saka also has the ability to win you games on his own, basically. And I think with Martinelli, when he's lacking confidence like he is, and he's dropping stinkers the way that he is, it's easier to bring him off the pitch than what it is Bukayo Saka, because if you take Bukayo Saka off, you almost miss that element completely, if that makes sense. Saka's almost like the glue to our front three, if that makes sense. I know Jesus does, a lot of the dropping deep, bringing the wingers into the game. But I think if you take Bukayo Saka out of it, then you're not necessarily looking at that front three as such a potent front three, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I kind of think like, yeah, I mean, Martinelli, could he be dropped? I mean, the only issue that we've got at the moment is Trossard isn't exactly, tearing up
He's
trees
in
either.
poor form too. That's
So
but that's Arteta needs to figure these things out. I think the fact that we look at our front options, and it's like if those three are not, if they're not firing, there's no other options, is more of an indictment on either the man management of Arteta not being able to get something out of the players that don't always start. I've said that like so many times that I don't think that our bench options are as bad as people think they are. It's just Arteta doesn't get anything out of them. We're not getting anywhere near the amount that we should be getting out of Reece Nelson or Trossard or Emile or any of these guys. But the only player we're getting the most out of that comes off of the bench is Nketiah. And Nketiah is playing as good as he can play in an Arsenal. Like that's it. This is the top. But I have not seen enough from Reece Nelson, from ESR, from Trossard. Trossard's fallen off of a cliff, and now people are telling me Trossard's just not a good player, and I'm like, but he was good last season. So how is he just not a good player? There's something fundamentally not okay with like we don't have anybody off of the bench with any level of confidence that can come out there and change the game for real. Emile tries, but he doesn't get enough time to really make it work, you know? And he doesn't try any other like shapes or anything like the fact that he's said, okay, Emile Smith Rowe is not going to play left wing. I feel like he's shooting himself in the foot there. Like Emile played his best football for Arsenal off of the wing. So if we need another option, I would love to see Emile there, but Arteta's made it seem like he can't even play there. Martinelli is not an option through the middle. He's a natural number 9. So it's kind of like we're stuck with what we have, but is it so much that like these are just the only good players that we have, or is Arteta not maximizing what he has, you
I think
know?
I think you could maximise it better. Like for me, an example would be, I don't know, maybe play Trossard as your false nine, put Jesus out on the right and Saka out on the left, and then
We've
drop
played like
Martin.
that before.
You could do that. I think the mistake that Arteta made against West Ham, and the biggest thing that kind of let us down. This is why I say we missed Havertz in that game, was the lack of physicality in the midfield. I think
Mhm.
if he'd have played Smith Rowe in there instead of Trossard, then maybe we'd be thinking about a different game, because at least Smith Rowe has got a little bit of physicality about him. Trossard don't really have that.
He can carry the ball and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Trossard's very neat with the ball, very, very technical, left foot, right foot. You don't really know what his strongest foot is, but I don't think he suits playing that left 8 role at all. He has to play across the front three. to get the best out of Trossard. So there are elements to it that Arteta could do better. But at the same time, I don't feel we're strong enough at all, Jess. Like you kind of mentioned it earlier, and I know we had this discussion, during the summer as well, where we was talking about, have we done enough in the transfer window? Maybe we still need cover for Bukayo Saka. I still think that's the case. I still think if we was to go out and have, let's just say for argument's sake, the perfect transfer window, would look like a new striker, a new winger who can play left or right, and maybe another player who can play in that left eight role. So 3 players there that are going to cost a lot of money.
Mhm.
But when you really narrow it down to what we really need right now, it's somebody who can put the ball in the back of the net. Somebody who can do that when Jesus is not firing, when Martinelli's not firing, when Saka's not firing. Because it seems to me like they've all lost confidence at the same time, if that makes sense.
And they've lost their instinct, and I don't know if it's like it's trauma from last season or what it is, but they just don't seem to be playing with any sort of like they don't seem relaxed. They don't like to score goals. You have to be relaxed. Like, and this is coming from somebody like I played at a low ass level, y'all. Like, I'm not saying like I'm not Thierry Henry, but I do know to score goals you have to be relaxed. And it looks like it just looks like they're so like I have to score. Just relax. But if they're not going to be able to do that, you have to have somebody that comes off of the bench that can do it. And some of our players like we already said, Gabriel Jesus is not a natural goal scorer, and in my opinion, neither is Saka. Saka is not a natural goal scorer to me, and we're relying a lot on Odegaard and Havertz to chip in with goals, but they're midfielders. Naturally, your midfielders are probably going to get like what 5 and 5, maybe 6, 7 goals. Right now, we need Havertz and Odegaard to score loads. So it's just kind of like you have 2 guys that are not really natural goal scorers, and the one guy that is a natural goal scorer is in horrendous form. And so I don't even think it's like we need to bring in like a 25 to 30 goal season striker in January to improve. Like we need that player in the summer. We need that player in the summer. I'm not saying we don't need them, but I just think at the bare minimum, you just need a dynamic forward that's better than Nketiah.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
I
That's
think,
it. That's all we need. Like, I don't think it's like Toney or die. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's how it's being presented. Like, well, we can't get
yeah,
Toney. So, like, there are
I,
other players out there that can score goals. Like,
yeah, I get it. I get it. I just
yeah.
think, for an example, Ivan Toney fits the bill so well, um, to what we need right now. Because when you look at it, like I say, Nketiah don't offer anything different to Jesus. Reece Nelson doesn't really offer anything different to Bukayo Saka. He's very similar, but just not as good. Trossard again don't really offer anything too different to Martinelli. And I think if you had, say, for example, Olivier Giroud sitting on that bench, and you're 2-0 down against West Ham, all of a sudden you can change the dynamic of the game because he's tall, he's physical, he'll win aerial duels. You could start putting balls in the box, start doing something different if it's not working. Whereas we have to kind of play the same way the whole time and hope that we can get something, playing decent football. Like, for example, against West Ham, we had 30 shots and scored 0 goals, 77 touches in the box. And every single time we went forward, we was trying to do the same thing. So many intricate little passes in and around the area. Players not confident enough to shoot from the outside of the area. West Ham they defended really well. But then when we started putting balls in the box, although it was going to nobody, it created a little bit of chaos in the area. And if you've got that person in there who can win physical battles and aerial duels and offer something a little bit different, even if it's just coming off the bench, then, the 2 chances that fell to Jesus that he should really be scoring, I think a player like Ivan Toney, Dominic Solanke even, with the attributes that
Yeah.
he's got, would score them goals. Do you know
No,
what
I agree with that. I said I think any decent striker scores against West Ham for us.
I
I
mean?
don't think it's that hard. We have players that are really making hard work of easy chances. They're missing wide open goals. Like it's not like we're missing clear cut chances. There was 5 big chances missed against West Ham. This is not, we were squinting to see the chances like any decent striker would score in our system right now. Ollie Watkins, Solanke, Toney, all of them. My issue with the Toney thing is that he doesn't make sense to me at 100 million, and I don't think Arsenal have 100 million to spend. So if we don't have that, I'm okay with that. Like I understand that. I'm like, okay, you don't have the 100 million. We spent 200 million this summer. But to me, there's still no excuse to not get another attacker, period. I don't think it should be Tony or nothing. That's my point. Because if you
Mm.
end up not being able to get Tony, I get that. But what's stopping you from going to get our Luis Diaz, our Kulisevsky, like our, those types of players? Those players exist, and those players gave those teams goals in January. They did. It may not have been 20 goals, but we need like 5 or 6 more goals. That's what we need. We need somebody that's going to give us that. But I agree with you, and I just feel like Arsenal are going to go out there and try to get a defender, fail, and just be like, we're just going to do with what we got. I'm
Yeah, see,
getting that. I'm getting that vibe from Arsenal right now. It's giving that, like, like I
yeah.
can feel it. We're
See,
we're
that's
probably
the
not gonna get.
position that we need the very least. And, I've never been a big fan of Zinchenko in terms of his defensive ability. But when you look at it in the cold light of day, we still have one of the best defensive records in the league. And yeah, okay, the Wolves game, Zinchenko made the mistake that let us down. The Liverpool game, Zinchenko made the mistake that let us down. And it all seems to, whenever there's a goal conceded, he seems to be involved in it in one way or another. But it's not a case of, God, we're conceding so many goals that we desperately need to go out and fix this defence. I think, if you put your chances away, like you say, then maybe we concede the odd goal here or there. Zinchenko makes a mistake
Well,
here
our
and there,
defense can't
and it
be
doesn't really
perfect
affect.
every game. That's the
Mm,
truth. Like this season there hasn't been a game where our attack has bailed our defense out, but most games our defense has bailed our attack out.
yeah,
And they could not bail out our defense against West Ham. They couldn't do it. They did not have it. Saliba, Rice, and Gabriel have been playing out of their skin all season. All season. They needed one game for those players to bail them out at home against West Ham with 5, like they had so many chances and they couldn't do it. So I can never be upset with our defenses. It is what it is. Like they're really really good. But at some stage, we need to get one of those games where we're like, shit, we were bad at the back, but those attackers did it. And even against Luton, our attackers did not bail us out. It was Havertz and Rice that scored
yeah.
the equalizer in the winner. Those are midfielders, not our attackers. They're not doing it. They have like what, 3 goals in the last 12 games? They're not scoring. Like it's yo. But let's get into this because listen, we have Fulham. It's a must-win game now. Every game is a must-win, but it's like this is a must-win. There's pressure on this because we've dropped too many points, and we're sitting fourth, which doesn't feel good. So there's a couple of positions here that I feel like deserve a little bit of discussion because I think that there are other options that Arteta could be using that he's just refusing to use. Like I would try if Martinelli's really suffering on the left, I would maybe try him central and play somebody else on the wing because we need something. Like even if it's just putting Martinelli through the center and Jesus on the left, I would do that because you need to try something different. I don't know if he will. But how would you set up against Fulham? Like is this a game do you think we'd lose too much by maybe putting in Kivior instead of Zinchenko? Knowing that Trossard's form is poor, would you just do a straight swap? What would you do? Cuz if we see the same lineup, I think I will be a little bit disappointed cuz I just feel like that's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Yeah. I don't think Arteta's going to change too much. I think he will just take out Trossard, bring back Havertz, and I think he will go with that. Basically, the same lineup as started at West Ham. I think maybe that's the right thing to do as well. You know, I think you had a poor performance against West Ham. It wasn't good enough. Now you've got to go out there and correct that against Fulham and make sure you're putting the chances in the back of the net. And that's what I would be saying to the front three. You know, Martinelli, Jesus, Saka, cool. You had a poor performance against West Ham. I'm giving you an opportunity now to go out there and correct that against Fulham. If you don't do that, then the next game you're dropped. Simple as. That's what I would be saying if I was Arteta. But I don't really look at any other options that we've got and think, okay, they're a game changer or they're a
Yeah.
game changer. You know, maybe we could change things around. And like I say, when you look at it in the cold hearted like a day against West Ham, we dominated them. We had the majority of the possession, the majority of the chances. We just didn't finish our dinner. And I think against Fulham, you're right. It's definitely a must win. You know, because I said this in the comment section earlier. You can't win the title in January, but you can definitely lose the title in January. And like I said, you know, we've dropped points against Aston Villa, Liverpool, West Ham. We cannot afford to go out and drop points in this game, especially when, you know, it was only a few weeks ago we was looking at City thinking, "Core, they've dropped points in their 6 games. You know, they're starting to lag behind. We've got a great opportunity, and once again, we've kind of handed
We
it back to
continue
them
to
on
drop
plate.
points too. Every
Yeah,
time our ops drop points, we dropped them too. So now we're right where everybody else is in a worse position. It's crazy.
and
I
that's
just
something
go ahead.
we need to get out of, you know, our game more than anything. And this is why I always think, I still think, even now, have we got the mentality to go and win this league title? Because you know, when Liverpool beat City to a title, whenever City dropped points, Liverpool capitalised.
Mhm.
We didn't do that last season, and we haven't done that so far this season. Will Manchester City go on a poor patch of form again when they've got Kevin De Bruyne coming back, they've got Haaland coming back, they've got players coming back and returning now? I think it's
Listen,
going to be very difficult to beat them to this league title unless we go out and do some serious business in
we
January.
there's nobody that's coming back that's gonna change our fortune, in my opinion. I think defensively, we're relatively the same. Like, take the odds Zinchenko goal, like, mess up out, we're relatively the same with and without Tomiyasu, Thomas Partey, and Timber. So for me, it's kind of like none of those players score goals, so they're not going to change anything for us. You know, they'll make us do we need to be more defensively sound? No, we need to score more goals.
Yeah,
Like we need to score more goals. Like so, yeah. And like you said, you have De Bruyne coming back for City. They haven't really been playing with Holland, and we Liverpool always buy somebody in January. By the way, like
well,
Liverpool always buy somebody in January.
they're
That
going
is
to Jess because obviously Mo Salah's going to the African Cup of Nations as well. So you know they're going to have to go out and
They
strengthen.
have Endo out too, like, Endo's gonna go to the Asia Cup too, and they've already been talking about it. Liverpool are not gonna sit on their hands in this January window, they're going to go get somebody. But Arsenal don't wanna sell Eddie Nketiah because he's an important part of the squad, and so they're just gonna not do anything. I can already feel it, like, I'm just like, this is thinking that Thomas Partey and Tomiyasu are gonna change our fortunes. Yeah, they'll make us better defensively and give us other options, but, like, they're not going to help us score goals like that.
Mm.
Like that we're getting the chances now. But something that people have been talking about, in the chat is just changing the dynamics even slightly. Even if you don't decide to like do something crazy, I just feel like you need to do a little bit of something different. Don't keep playing Martinelli in the same way. Give him something new to think about. Because as much as I would love to just switch Trossard in there, Trossard has just not been playing well enough for me to just be like, okay, just pop him in there. I don't think that's going to solve anything. So if we were to do anything, I would say, even if you leave Zinchenko back there, which I feel like is what's going to happen, to just play Martin or allow, even if Martinelli starts on the left, allow him to drift central and make Jesus create from the left position. Because at least what Jesus can do is he knows Zinchenko well enough and he plays really well with Havertz. So that triangle will be better. Because I don't know if you agree with this, but it feels like that left side doesn't have any connection. Like Martinelli and Havertz don't connect. Zinchenko's not really connected with Martinelli. and maybe just moving Jesus over there would help a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. You're definitely right. You know, Jesus and Havertz connect better. Obviously, Jesus and Zinchenko played at Man City together as well. So yeah, that could be an option. I mean, in terms of personnel, I wouldn't change too much. But you're right. I don't see why our front three can't be interchangeable. You know, the one thing that really annoyed me a little bit about the West Ham thing is it's not working on the left side. It's not working with Bukayo Saka down the right side. So why can't Martinelli switch over to the right side and Saka switch over to the left and see if we can, get some change out of their fullbacks that way and just become a little bit more interchangeable. Whereas it seems very rigid at the moment, like where Saka has to stay on the right, Martinelli has to stay on the left. And I just feel like, you know, we wasn't getting any change out of Kufel, so why can't Saka go and test the waters with him, see if he can get some change
Yeah.
out? You know what I
They
mean? And
don't
that's
haven't
something
been
we did
swapping
really well last.
positions. They haven't been switching positions at
Mm,
all. They're like
not at all.
more just and the good thing about Gabriel Jesus or the best when he's at his best, it's when he can pop into different positions and get near other players and play off of them. But when you make him play central and play up against the center backs, we lose. Like he needs to go away from them. And yeah, sometimes that means that we don't have a presence central, but sometimes Martinelli pops into that position. And I think beyond people are saying he's not getting into he's not doing this, he's not doing that. I just feel like just even them getting closer would help. They're so far away from each other. And like I've seen people say like really bad things about Martinelli, and I get that we're frustrated with him, but if we don't get an attacker, we need Martinelli to work. So Arteta needs to make changes now before it's like we lose so many more games. Like Martinelli kind of has to work out. So I'm just thinking of ways, but it's not like he has to play center forward. He just needs to be able to swap positions with Gabriel Jesus. Jesus is a better creative player. He's a better dribbler. And he's better out wide. He's much better out wide. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it. I'm gonna put them two in those positions. I just feel it's just do something different. I would actually like us to fail doing something a little bit different than continuing to do the same thing and not getting the points. Do you know what I mean? 'Cause it's
Yeah,
frustrating. It's
yeah, yeah.
frustrating.
But yeah, you're right because it seems to me like Martinelli's been told you're on the left, stay out wide on the left. Jesus,
Mhm.
you're in the middle. You do what you do in the middle. Saka, you stay out wide right. Like they, whereas last season very interchangeable, like different positions. Jesus was popping up in different positions. Martinelli as well, Saka. And we haven't really done that as a front three at all this season. So yeah, I agree. They just need to be given a bit more freedom, whereas it seems very very rigid at the moment. And then the Zinchenko thing, I think for this game, you can afford to play Zinchenko and try and take more control of that midfield because it is only Fulham. But if this had been any other game, say, I don't know, Aston Villa, for example, I'd be taking him straight out and saying, look, Kivior's playing. Okay, he can't do the inverting thing. He's not as good on the ball or anything like that. But we know that in moments we're going to have to defend, and he will at least, hopefully defend a bit better than what Zinchenko does, because that's the one thing that lets our defence down is Zinchenko and his inability to defend. It is so frustrating, you know.
Yeah, it is frustrating. It is. I think I've just gotten to the point with it because I know that if Tommy was fit and Timber was here, he wouldn't be playing. That I'm just kind of like it's kind of like you gotta when you get down to like your third choice left back, they're not going to be as good and they're going to have more flaws than the guys that would be playing. So I'm just like, I am frustrated by the amount of individual errors. I think he's just acting up. I don't know what his problem is. It's almost like he doesn't want to play, but he's another player that knows that right now, even if he's messing up, nobody's going to take his spot because Kivior is completely like a non-factor, which I find very strange because I'm like, he played well at the end of last season, albeit at center back, but he gets like a couple minutes here when he plays well, he doesn't get more playing time. but when he plays poorly, then we don't see him forever, and like it's just too inconsistent. And I feel like he's gonna suffer the same fate as like a lot of other players that don't integrate properly. We just end up having to like let them go on loan. I get this feeling with Kivior that it's not going to be because he's not talented. It's because Arteta just he doesn't know how to get him. Like Tomiyasu was a right back. He started off at right back. He was playing left back. Timber came in to play on the right. He was playing on the left. Everybody and their mom plays over Kivior. So how is he meant to get confidence? Like how is he meant to be confident? If you won't play him and give him
This
multiple
thing
games in a row.
is like, Arteta, some of the signings that Arteta brings in, you just think, these players that come off the bench, there's no wonder that some of them don't have any confidence, because it seems to me like at times the manager don't have confidence in them, you know, like Kivior, like, Reece Nelson, who he handed a new contract to. There's been games that we've been winning comfortably this season. Even like, for example, PSV was a dead rubber. I know Reece Nelson played that game, but he didn't play the full game. You
Mhm.
know, didn't play the full game, and there was no need to not give him the full 90 minutes. So it's kind of like, it seems to me like Arteta doesn't trust in the players that he has at his disposal, apart from our regular starting 11, and that's why we don't see much changes happening. So it sounds silly because he's spent 700 million, but it seems to me like he's going to have to spend some more. If we want to win a league title, whether it be this season or next season. But I do also think that it's crunch time this season. He has to win something this season.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, but it's to have to play Liverpool so early in the FA Cup, I also think is like very disheartening as well. But when we went out of the Carabao Cup, I know we would have played Liverpool anyway, but I was like, we're going to get somebody very hard. Hold on. Sorry, I don't know why they're calling me. But as soon as we went out of the Carabao Cup, I said, whoever we get in the FA Cup for the first round is going to be really difficult. And it's Liverpool, so that one already feels like, and then you have the Champions League and the Premier League. I think a lot of people felt like, I think a lot of people are starting to feel like we're probably dropped too many points at this stage. And basically, we'd have to be how we were at the beginning of last season at the end of this season in order to win it, maybe, so it's not looking good for Mikel at the moment, but he
I
needs
mean,
to go ahead.
I still hold hope, because this is going to sound completely out there and ridiculous, and people in the chat are probably going to go, Jesus Christ, Brandon, like, have you lost your mind? But I think out of all the competitions that we're in, aside from the FA Cup, obviously, because, if we get past Liverpool, then, it's a different story. But just the fact that we've got Liverpool is going to be difficult anyway. I think we have a great chance of winning the Champions League. And the reason why I say that ahead of the Premier League is because in the Premier League, you got teams, and this is where we struggle, against teams that sit 10 men behind the ball and hit on the counter attack, and they keep things tight. They ask you to break them down, and that's where we struggle against teams where we have to break them down. And we proved that against West Ham. Whereas in the Champions League in Europe, you ain't going to get that. You're not going to have teams that sit back. Your Real Madrids are not going to sit back. They're going to be expansive. They're going to open up, and they're going to free up more space for the likes of Martinelli, Saka, Jesus, Odegaard. And I think that's where we thrive, because it was the same last season. Nobody expected Arsenal to be as good as they were last season. And it was only, in the second half of the season when teams started to find out that, okay, they're very good. We have to sit 10 men behind the ball and make them come and break us down. Because at the beginning of the season, the first 19 games, teams were still trying to be expansive against us, and we was just absolutely ripping them off the park. And I think we can do a similar thing in the Champions League. Obviously, it depends on, what side of the draw we are, and whether we get the likes of Man City or Real Madrid at any stage before the final. but I think, we have a great chance of winning that competition. It sounds really out there, Jess, but I really do think that's our best chance of winning the competition this season.
Yeah. Well, we got to go for it. There's no reason in being in a competition and then not going for it. I just wonder if we have it seems like our energy has been better in the Champions League, though. I think we've had our best performances have come in that competition where we've kind of been a little in the Premier League. So we'll see how things go. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic about tomorrow. I'm looking for a response. I'm looking for early goals. Be serious, Arsenal. Stop playing around. But any score predictions before we get out of here?
It's at Craven Cottage, isn't it?
Yeah. Which
Oh,
we are a better like away team than we are at home, I'll be honest with you. When we're at
yeah,
home, we get too rattled by our own crowd. Too
yeah.
rattled.
Agree. The only thing that's kind of bothering me slightly is we have this tendency of allowing, former players to come and score against us, and they've got Willian and
And it
Alex.
will be.
So I want to say that hopefully Arteta's got into them this week, especially that front three, and we go out and we absolutely tear them apart, and we win the game 3 or 4-0. But I just got a feeling we're going to concede as well, so I'm going to say 3-1.
Yeah. I went with 3-1 for the West Ham game, but I've come to my senses. I'm gonna go 2-1 because this front three, unless there's a miracle, ain't scoring no 3 goals. Like they're really struggling. If they get 2, I'll be excited about that and we win the game because until they show me something else. And to be honest, what I really want to see, like, I'm pretty sure like somebody that I feel like I would bank on scoring is Havertz. I just feel like he knows how to score a goal. Like, you know, but what I would really want to see in this game beyond a win is our forward score goals and be the man of the match. I think Declan Rice has taken most of the man of the matches this season. I think he's had like 7. And I get that we're a good defensive side, but that doesn't say that doesn't look good for our attackers. I don't even know if any of them have been man of the match yet this season. I know
Only
Havertz has. I don't know. I don't think they
Eddie was, weren't he? 'Cause
Eddie
he scored a hat
when he
trick.
yeah. Um maybe Saka against Nottingham Forest, but other than that, they need to start scoring. Period. The disrespect I'm seeing on the timeline, the types of players that have more goals than them, be serious, guys. Go out
Is
there and score.
Also, when you think about it, Man United's front three have scored 5 goals between them this season. We've only
We're
scored
no different.
10.
Yeah, we're no different. We're not that different from them. Issa says yes, open play goals. I mean, it could come off of set pieces. I don't care, but like it would be nice if they were open play goals. I think most of the open play like chances go missing. Like we don't put them away. So yeah, but we'll see. I think it'll be a decent game and hopefully we win it. But Brandon, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Do you want to tell everybody? There's 300 of you guys in here, by the way. So notifications, like, subscribe, all of that. And do you guys want? Do you want to tell anybody where they can find you, your channel, that kind of stuff?
To be honest, Jess, I ain't done my channel for a while.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
had a minor operation a couple of months ago,
Oh
uh,
no.
well, about a month ago, and been recovering from that. So it's kind of like I don't know. I've lost the enthusiasm. So I like coming on, to other people's and you know talking football, and that. So apart from my channel, maybe Twitter, which is Brandon AFC 96. Um, and then yeah, of course you'll see me on the football terrace tomorrow, and maybe 1 or 2 other channels. Hopefully Arsenal get the win. If not, I'll be very very unhappy.
So will all of us. All right, guys, that's it for today. You guys know the deal. Player ratings immediately following the game. No watch along, but yeah, like I said, I owe you guys some watch along, so we'll figure those out. And yeah, like I said, like and subscribe on the way out. There's 300 of you guys in here, so there's no reason why I should not see more likes. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.